In last week's Submarine, the newly refitted HMS Superb and her crew have dived, run silent and fired her first weapons. Now the Sea Riders are coming on board to make sure the men match the machinery. The Sea Riders are CSST, Captain, Submarine, Sea and Shore Training. They're the inspectorate, a cross between driving examiners, health and safety and the Inland Revenue. They know their jobs backwards and everyone else is on board. They are feared, but they will make sure that Superb and her crew are second to none.
Emergency stations, emergency stations. Submarine has collided.
Good in, keep 60 meters.
Within minutes of being on board, the Sea Riders called their first emergency. 4,200 tons of submarine, Super B, has just collided with an unknown object. Commander John Humphreys and his crew have to take immediate action. The first emergency in 5 days of emergencies.
No, do not pump. Use the speed. Right,
the unreality of such exercises, as the hours fly by, become blurred. There is just no time to think about what's real and unreal.
This is a game. It's training. It's simulation. But to get the best out of it, I have got to make the ship's company as a whole believe that we're in the game. We're not watching it, we're not playing it, we are in the game. Yum, yum.
John Humphreys has been in the game a long time, in command of everything that goes on, even the errors.
The periscope watcher took the submarine deep in emergency because he sighted a container which had fallen off the back of some container ship crossing the Atlantic. He gives a straightforward order, go deep, go deep, go deep, keep 60 meters in this case. Unfortunately, on that occasion, we hit this submerged container. What I want you to do then, Ship Control, is to make a further pipe to shake people out of their torpor, and that is emergency stations, carry out phase 1 damage checks, report to DCHQ, accompanied by the general alarm.
Open bulkhead doors, report to DCHQ.
Whatever it says in the EOP, do not make that pipe. The submarine has collided. We've gone deep in emergency. We've been hit by something with a loud bang. Of course we've collided. There's no need to state the obvious. This is not Jack and Ori. Okay? Sir. Okay. Good drill.
You enjoyed that, did you? That's because you've been doing it too long and you're very sad. Indeed.
Let's give it that button now.
Live. That's hot.
Emergency systems, all of them, are tested.
Take off first.
In this case, the original collision has led to a fire. It has to be dealt with quickly. Above all, submariners fear fires.
Is it quite rough, is it?
P.O. Reggie Perrin's liking for amateur dramatics, when on leave, adds authenticity.
Oh.
Sit down. Sit down.
All right, all right.
All right.
Yeah. Ooh.
Your medical party.
I'm all right.
You're all right. You sit down.
Oh, I'll be okay. Just get straight.
Get a medical party.
Unfortunately, the ball cooler, so I need to destroy.
I'm okay.
You're not.
What's happening?
Get his sort of. Let's get him out of there, flame down.
The wardroom, cramped at the best of times, becomes damage control, the nerve centre, dealing with emergency after emergency. And nerves are on edge. There's a lot at stake.
Over the next 5 days, we will be conducting single and double evolutions to ensure that the submarine will be able to go on to its next phase of trials, which has to be conducted in deep water. And so to do that, we'll take them up to a higher level, make them capable of easily coping with 2 or 3 things happening at once, like a fire, hydraulic burst or an HP air burst, so that when they go to sea on their own in deep water and they have a single failure, then they'll be able to cope with it with some ease, hopefully.
Casualty in the cigarette space.
I'm all right.
Reggie Perrin's heat exhaustion is a performance worthy of an Oscar, but so real are the tests that for a short while no one was sure it was an act.
Yeah, good charge of his head. Oh, quick, get his stuff off. Hurry up, get his boots off, somebody.
Enter Plymouth pal Doc McGonagall to deal with him as he would any crewman. Emergency, action and backup. It's all watched.
You take his head. I'm all right now. I'm all right now.
At stake at the end is an assessment by our team as to whether the submarine is cleared or not cleared to go to sea. If we do not believe she's ready to go into deep water on her own, then we will not clear her.
Okay, so let's send in a couple of tag teams and investigate.
The end of the examination is a very long 4 days away. Super B and her crew are, so far, doing well, but it's going to get tougher, a lot tougher. The Sea Riders are not just there to criticise, but advise as well. But their advice has to be noted.
First thing you need to do is tell him whether the berth is isolated. Okay, so they're over-isolated. We'll take that over-isolation off. Yes. And you're laughing.
One man who's not laughing is Star Perrin. He's so well into his part as a heat-exhausted crewman that he's beginning to believe it himself. Some of those around him aren't sure either.
Yeah, your pulse is coming down now. You're looking better. You like to sit up?
I can try.
Yeah. So you can sit up then. How you feel? That's it, mate.
Those in damage control are wondering what more can be thrown at them. Already a collision, a fire, an injury and a high-pressure airburst. It seems that the Sea Riders have singled out Superb for special attention. But the boat is riding it all and the crew are gaining control.
HPO bus was initially over-isolated. We walked back from this now and 3JV is been reopened.
You have to hold it up because I'm shaking.
Gaining control over Reggie's acting is the doc, who recommends bed rest for his patient, to the relief of everyone.
He's coming round, he's not been unconscious, and he's going to be fine. All right.
Where would you put him? Somewhere cooler a bit? In his bed. In his bunk? Or in your own bunk?
Well, in his bed.
But not with you?
No, that gets frowned upon in the Navy.
DCHQ, replace fuses.
Things at the moment are starting to get back in control. Superb has just shaved it over CSST, but it is only round one.
How long would you recommend that he stays out of the watch spell?
Until we're happy that he's fully recovered. And he's happy that he's fully recovered as well.
Well done.
HPO system is in a normal seagoing lineup. You have the HPO system.
I have the HPS system.
An HP airburst is a nothing event to us guys, all right? And that was a nothing event. It got over-isolated. So be it, all right? If it gets over-isolated, it's our job to recognise it and get it corrected back to the minimal isolation, which is exactly what you did. That was well controlled, guys. Right, it's a piece of piss, isn't it?
I was told to act out the fact that I had heat exhaustion and collapse. So I quickly asked the guy what heat exhaustion does to someone, so I've never had it before. So he had about 30 seconds to tell me as I was walking back towards the mess. And I think I got it too right, because they actually thought that I'd actually really had collapse of heat exhaustion. And also I think Phil, the PO doc, he was a bit confused as well at the time.
We've been in that woolly bag for a while.
I don't know, I can't remember. But they looked after me all right, didn't they? Did you see? And ever since then I have been ribbed about it.
Just need to get some water in.
Every crewman has to join in the game.
G'day, Ship Patrol speaking. We're about to start Planesman training for this afternoon, and this afternoon's driver is PO writer Asprey.
Coxswain Paul Kennel from Gosport hands over to Keith Asprey from Plymouth. He will be driving the boat while all around him is madness and mayhem.
Driving the boat under normal circumstances isn't a problem. Today we were Planesman training, and what happens is that they give you different scenarios. If you're after planes are jammed to dive or rise, then you have to follow a particular procedure to get the submarine into a safe position.
He has little time to think about his home life with wife Sherry back in Plymouth. She has other, more mundane worries about his driving skills.
I must admit, I get more worried about him actually driving down from Scotland, because I know what he's like with driving, so I get more worried with that than what I actually do with him actually being on the submarine and everything. Because I think it's because I spoke to Keith about it in the past, and I know that there's so many backup systems that if something does go wrong, there's something always to sort of like cover it. So I think that's helped actually talking to Keith. In the beginning, I did worry an awful lot. I was like terrible for sort of like worrying, but now I just get used to it.
Full rise on the plane. Starboard 30.
If she did know what could go wrong, she might worry.
It was hot. I thought I was on fire. And I thought a smell of burning was coming from me, but it was from somewhere else. And I was sat in a puddle by the end of it. But it's all down to making sure that we're safe.
Okay. Very good lesson there. Even though you didn't have the foreplanes throughout that evolution, use of starboard rudder actually brought the bubble up.
Yeah.
Okay, so it didn't matter.
But Sherry would be proud if she knew Keith's driving skills had saved the day.
So it was a bloody good lesson.
The inspection lasts 5 days. 5 days of not knowing what's going to be thrown at you or when. With no daylight to gauge time, body clocks are out of kilter. Breakfast in the evening, supper in the morning, and sleep whenever.
All of this is pressure. The fact that when we're actually off watch, as you know, we're on a 6 on 6 off cycle. When we're off watch, we're up fighting fires even when we're not on watch. So we're up out of bed, and then we're into these woolly bags and fighting fires and so on again. And that's pressure. Then you go back to bed, and then it seems like 10 minutes later you're up again for something else. So there's a lot of pressure and stress. It does get a bit stressful sometimes.
Fire! 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 Fire pantry!
And just when you're wondering what can happen next, a fire breaks out in the galley next to the wardroom and the temporary damage control centre.
Rebel documentation! Documentation!
Emergency station, emergency station. Fire, fire, fire. Fire in the wardroom pantry.
There is only one way out, through a small hatch.
Go down, sir.
For a time, the sub's damage control centre is out of action. Every crewman is multi-skilled. Keith Asprey is no longer a sub driver. He's now a firefighter.
Get Drager!
The dock is traffic control.
No, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sets total. We've got one full 3-man team, the name's passed.
While the firefighters wait to hear how serious the outbreak is, the CSST is throwing trouble the way of the medic teams. Doc McGonigal is alerted that a man has been contaminated by primary coolant in a tunnel close to the nuclear reactor. It's radioactive.
All I want to do is pass you this roll. What you do is not to move, right? You pass you this roll, and any left loose, can you start to mop up? Start them off. Decontamination on the way.
Boss delivering assumed contaminant statement.
Need one more for the 3-man team.
What numbers have you got there?
Give us a shout when you get another one.
While the firefighters still await instructions, in the tunnel there is now a sense of real urgency. If the dock does not clear up this spillage, then anyone walking past this point could be contaminated.
Any of that's loose, just shove something on it. We want to and put the lid on the bottle.
Lid on the bottom.
With today's knowledge, radiation leaks on submarines can be contained, but fire is the submariner's worst enemy, and the crew are now facing 2 emergencies, radiation and fire. Keith Asprey is still in the thick of it.
If a fire's too big and we're pushed back, we then have to retreat somewhere, gather the troops, if you like, and then we get dressed in what they call fear not suits, which are those what we call woolly bags. They're thick, but they're all fire retardant, and it makes you sweat a lot, profusely. And it's like being inside a water bottle.
I just seem to go from puddle to puddle. I left the puddle in the control room. I'm sat in another one now.
Stand the bottle up.
Containment of the radioactive liquid is the utmost priority. A leakage could find its way into the submarine's ventilation system, and within a short time contaminate everyone on board.
Simulate heads, and we'll decontaminate from there. Okay? It was a simulation of the dropping of a sample of primary coolant out of a bottle that had been taken for analysis that we do on a daily basis. It was using water as it was a simulation, and it was to check our response to that happening.
3-man team are now making a re-entry to WSC.
Just turn your back to me.
11 inches.
When you're hundreds of meters beneath the sea and something like this happens, there's no help you can readily call on. You have to help yourselves. Dealing with an emergency is teamwork, and the crew of HMS Superb, faced with everything CSST can devise for them, is becoming a team.
Do you want to tape it up? So I would tape it up, and if it was on his head, we'd put a hood on him as well. There you go.
The damage control team from the wardroom has made the long, uncomfortable journey through the narrow hatchway back aft.
The atmosphere's out of spec, you have to put EBS on down there.
Probably quite busy down there as well. Yeah, just
The hastily improvised new nerve centre is back on top of things. Where a few hours before there was just chaos, there is now a semblance of organised chaos.
Permission that the man is ready to be moved to Decontamination, and
The radiation leak has been contained, but there are still worries. While the crew of Superb are facing the most intensive and stressful 5 days of their lives, the wives are oblivious of what's happening to their husbands.
Hi, is that Crown Roofing? Hi, it's Kate up at Moorhaven. You gave us a quote for building a...
The doc's wife, Kate, is not fighting emergencies, but domestic problems to her are just as great.
I decided to take some tiles off the wall to do a bit of retiling and found that about inch and a half of plaster fell off the wall. What did I do about that? Could I replaster it? No. So therefore I had to sort that out. I mean, that's a very mundane and thing that probably anybody could do, but it's not something I'd done before, so I had to then sort that out. We're trying to get building work done on the property and trying to chase builders, sort out problems with the car. I've had an awful lot of problems with the car, and a lot of places, particularly the garages, see a woman dealing with a car problem or builders, and they seem to have a problem with me dealing with things like that. They always assume that it should be a man dealing with it, and therefore I think I have greater problems doing it than perhaps Phil would.
Thanks very much. Okay, bye.
Yeah, we'll get you there. You'll be put into a big bag. You get undressed.
Yeah.
You'll then be monitored. You'll go into the shower.
Yeah.
You'll just wash normally.
Yeah.
Okay. You'll then be re-monitored. If you're clear, and we'll get you dressed again into your aid, so another clean pair of OVs.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Sometimes dealing with a potential victim of radioactivity is a lot easier than having to deal with being apart from your husband.
It gets worse and worse as the time goes on, but there are specific times in the day when you think you're doing something that perhaps Phil's always done when he's here. It's something that he does, and I'm suddenly finding myself doing it and thinking, oh, that's a bit strange. He normally does that. It's just an ongoing feeling that there's somebody not there, there's something missing. It is a part of you that's not there. It's almost, it's not as acute as losing a limb, but I've got nobody to talk to. I'm here on my own. You find you have conversations with the dog, and perhaps times like that where you want to sort out a problem at work, talk it over when you get home. There's nobody there to do that, and that's one of my worst times.
2 extra flash by the door.
Well, counted them out and then you count them back in.
Right.
Stand clear, contaminated man coming through.
The contaminated man's ordeal is not over. Phil leads him away to the showers for a hose down. Like Kate, the fire team are also having to face their worst time. Their job is to put out the flames in the dark, narrow, smoke-laden confines of the submarine. It's terrifying. For Keith Asprey and his team, this is as realistic as they ever wanted to get.
In a real scenario, then it would be scary because, as you see, the lights are off, and if there's a lot of smoke, you're not able to see very far. That's why if somebody has a tick, the thermal image cameras so that they can see, you know, where the heat is, and we, you know, we can fight the fire from that. But yeah, it does get a bit scary.
Attack party leader! The fire is active, we are shooting down Get to the EBS, man, now! Move yourself!
The 5 days that make up the Sea Riders' deep water clearance tests are nearly over. The end couldn't come sooner for the crew of Super B. No one is more shattered than Keith Asprey.
I am too old for this, I'm sure. There's younger people on the submarine, I'm sure, will be able to cope a little bit better than I did. But the captain was quite concerned the other day that I should be careful with. He doesn't want me having a heart attack going up and down these ladders with these baskets on, so I've got to take it easy.
Only one more hurdle, but a giant one. The CSST debrief, where the crew are told how they've done. Did they pass or fail? It can be a worse ordeal than the test itself.
Okay, chaps, final debrief for deep water clearance. It'll take the form that I will go through today's pickup points, as I have done, the nitty-gritty of what went wrong today. All right, get your books out. It's just as valid to take this one tonight, because the next time you see us will only be a couple of months away on full workup, all right? And so I don't want to see the points I'm about to mention tonight. We had a bit of a problem with the escape hatch in the XO's cabin, all right? The first lieutenant had to make a very urgent and panicky pipe for some bastard to open the escape hatch from down here. All right, it's not on, guys. Had somebody not opened that, all right, we could have had fatalities there. ELSAs. No one evacuating from DCHQ this morning used an ELSA. All right, that's the whole reason for having them, guys, to get out. They're an evacuation piece of equipment, so don't forget that. You've got good potential, guys. All right, you'll next see me in about 2 months' time when I'll come back and give you some more shit, all right? And we'll build that shit up faster and we'll have a lot more fun, okay? I look forward to it.
Next week in Submarine, bad news from home for the captain and the coxswain. The first deep dive, flying the flag in Holland, and the return of the Sea Riders.